Amphibians are ancient creatures, living fossils in a modern world. But frogs, toads and salamanders are more diverse, colourful and creative than you could ever imagine. Whether dodging danger, fighting rivals, raising their young, or wearing a disguise, amphibians are awesome. So hop along to your local pond, dive in and explore the fascinating world of the frogs and their cousins. Dark, steaming ancient forest, like a land that time forgot. A monster lurking beneath the surface. It evolved in the Jurassic period. This human-sized beast could have been dodging the feet of dinosaurs. But this is today, a giant salamander. It can hunt in darkness by sensing prey. It can breathe through its skin underwater. It can regrow limbs, produce toxic slime, and live for nearly a century. It's the crowning glory of the amphibian family. At school, every child taught that amphibians bridge the gap between fish and reptiles. Fish must live in water, breed in water, and breathe oxygen from the water through their gills. Reptiles have adapted to life on land. They have scaly skin, breathe with lungs, and most lay shelled eggs, always on land. Amphibians are totally unique. Their name means both lives. They have mastered land and water. They bridge both worlds and can breathe air with lungs or oxygen from water through their skin. But unlike reptiles, they must lay their eggs in water as they don't have hard shells and could dry out. Egg laying's quite a palaver, and all that most of us see of our slimy neighbours. Spring is in the air, and the forest is buzzing. There's a party, and everyone's invited. When European moor frogs are ready to mate, they make quite a splash. They're a locally abundant species. Several hundred can rub shoulders in every hectare of wetland. But now they cram more in from far and wide, up to 20 per square metre, in a giant amphibian orgy. The usually grey-brown males flush ghostly blue in excitement. They're looking for available females and don't intend to let one slip through their fingers. Their thumbs have nuptial pads, rough areas, to give them a better grip on their slippery lovers. When a female spotted, the contest begins. The male's endless chirping and splashing draws an audience. Master of stealth, the bitterns a well-camouflaged heron. Patience is his middle name. It's a waiting game that usually pays off. Ever heard the expression frog in the throat? Turns out wriggling frog isn't the easiest thing to swallow. It doesn't spoil the party atmosphere, though. A successful male won't let go, despite the best attempts of others to dislodge him. He needs to be in position as the female releases her eggs. In perfect synchrony, he pumps out sperm over the mounds of jelly. Each female can release anywhere from a whopping 500 eggs to an eye-watering 3,000. The eggs are small but expand, absorbing water to become the more familiar mounds of frog spawn. Their sheer numbers seem excessive, but the amphibian world's constantly under attack. This time, a grey heron invites itself to the party. Frogs need large litters to keep the population topped up. So they keep at it. They only breed for 20 days or so, each spring, and must make the most of the narrow window. All of their energy goes into the next generation. Then an amphibian miracle. Each perfect globe undergoes an incredible transformation. The tiny larvae wriggle free of their jelly mold. There's not much family resemblance. Unlike the adults, they extract oxygen from the water through fingery gills. They munch only on microscopic algae. But there's amphibian magic on its way. Over a few short weeks, they undergo a spectacular metamorphosis. They start adding tiny water creatures like Daphnia, the water flea, to their diet. These minute crustaceans are the basis of the food chain and are even eaten by the plants themselves, such as the carnivorous Utricularia. The pond offers a buffet of mini meals. As adult frogs, they won't eat plants at all. Their life of carnivory starts here. Eventually they'll absorb their own tails, recycling the nutrients into characteristic hopping legs. The tadpole stage lasts less than a month, but it will be several years until the frogs are big enough to return for an orgy of their own. The amphibians, frogs, toads and salamanders, are pretty amazing. And they've got a long track record of success. The first amphibians crawled from primal swamps around 370 million years ago. At that time, sea levels were falling, exposing new land. Some fish, similar to modern lungfish, were experimenting with leg-like fins and the first prototype lungs so that they could explore the shores. If a dry season took away their pools, they could survive for short periods on land and even walk to find water. They were the first vertebrates to ever venture above the surface. A fashion that soon caught on. It was the start of something big. In these great-grandfathers of amphibians, fins gradually became fully functional legs that could support the body, and gills disappeared altogether, replaced by bigger and more efficient lungs. What was one small step for a fish was a giant leap for amphibian kind. It opened up a whole new world. At that time, the only animals were invertebrates. A bug buffet. And the amphibians were the first to the feast. In a humid, lush rainforest landscape, they thrived. But the climate was changing, drying. They were left behind when reptiles, and later mammals, started to dominate the scene. The damp places of the world remained their domain. By the Jurassic, when dinosaurs ruled the Earth, amphibians looked more or less the same as they do today. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Today, there are around 7,000 species. The smallest are just a few millimeters long. The biggest is the size of a human. Under the cover of darkness, the monster hunts. It's nearly 2 meters long, giant but dwarfed by ancient relatives. Fossils reveal ancient amphibian cousins, like Tritiomycosis, 9 meters long. A slow metabolism means it can go for weeks without feeding, but when it does hunt, it ambushes fish and smaller amphibians, using a vacuum to try and draw them into its mouth. This species has barely changed for 160 million years. But their cousins have diversified with style. "90% of the world's amphibians are frogs. Their success is thanks to the tools of their trade, not least their iconic frog legs. These are not just menu items, but a masterful way of traveling efficiently and dodging danger. Before they leap, the frogs stretch their muscles and tendons, generating mechanical energy that catapults them forwards. Some are so good at it that they seem to walk on water. Frogs aren't the biggest creatures. For them, it's a dangerous world. Wherever they roam, they need to keep on hopping. When they're not hopping to escape, they can do it in pursuit of food, utilizing another frogtastic tool. A lightning-fast, sticky tongue. Like high-speed Velcro, it's thrown at the victim. The fleshy end wraps around the bug, coating it with sticky saliva. Forget blink and you'll miss it. A frog could strike out 5 times before your eyelids were open. The biggest tongue belongs to the bullfrog. It's a good fly swat, but can even be used to catch birds. Then its big eyeballs help shove it down its throat. Though sometimes its eyes are bigger than its stomach. An emperor moth caterpillar. It's binge-eating, loading its body with nutrients, ready to transform into an adult moth. A 6-centimeter succulent sack of protein. But for a European tree frog, there's a problem. The bug's bigger than he is. And it's covered with irritating hairs. Time to jump ship. Generally, the ravenous bug-eating appetites of amphibians benefit others. They chow down on pests, controlling their numbers. But they don't discriminate, and sometimes useful animals also end up on the menu. The world would be buried in poop were it not for poop eaters. Dung beetles are tireless workers who dedicate their lives to cleaning up after others. It's not enough to win them respect. They feed on dung and collect it to lay their eggs in, an edible nursery for their young. In fact, dung gets them in the mood as they begin their family planning. But it's hard to find privacy away from the prying eyes of a toad. Amphibians can't chew their food, hence their generous stomachs. Their multifunctional mouths are musical too. When the tree frogs blow up their balloons to impress a mate, they prefer to do it under the safe cover of darkness. Frogs have simple ears that are well designed to pick up the high-frequency love songs, but others sometimes listen in. Fire-bellied toads, so called for the dazzling orange blotches on their undersides, put their all into their performance. To sing, they pump themselves full of air and shift it back and forth through their vocal sacs. It means they're very buoyant. It's such an impressive display that the odd frog gets lured in. After some confused fumbling, they get back to business. But there's a downside to his performance strategy. Floaters are easy to spot and vulnerable to attack. The toads produce a venom that can irritate the throats of anything that tries to eat them, but it doesn't always work. The flood meadows they use for their displays are a favored feeding ground for migratory birds. One male sees the intruder and puts on a different show, curling to show his orange patches, a warning that he won't taste nice. And it seems to do the trick. Each coupling results in up to 300 eggs, and they too will face a life of peril. But frogs and toads have many tricks to help them through. The famous slimy skin of amphibians is a winner. They can breathe through it in water, but can cope on dry land. It makes them weatherproof and can provide cryptic camo. The skin makes its own slime from mucus glands to keep it moist. And in some species, the glands also produce poisons. Along the ears of toads, the glands contain a neurotoxin called bufotoxin, or frog toxin. Many poisonous species advertise their talent, but few with the flair of the fire salamander. It might have misjudged the stream, but there's no mistaking the warning signs. Black and yellow indicate poison glands that run head to tail along both sides of his body. This little salamander's a creature of habit. He likes to spend his time traveling around just 60 square meters of damp forest that he calls home. He has favored hiding places that he'll use regularly for decades. And as he patrols, he's constantly on the lookout for food. An earthworm's hard to get to grips with. Amphibian kind don't chew their food. It's straight down the hatch. He can wander boldly through the forest thanks to his chemical defense. He produces alkaloid toxins that can cause muscle contractions and hyperventilation in other animals. It also kills fungal and bacterial infections, keeping his skin healthy and bright. There are more than 650 salamanders in the world. All have toxins to keep away biting insects and stop fungal infections, but they're not all deadly. Some of the biggest come out at night. It looks like the stuff of nightmares, but North America's hellbender does not live up to its name. It's a more primitive model, with gill slits and no eyelids. Lurking in the shadows, he hunts. A more likable cousin's on the move. One group of small salamanders is known as the Newts. In this case, the Sierra variety. Every year they march back to their place of birth, ready to make more baby newts. Most amphibians are nervous out in the open, but orange is a warning sign. This species has toxin 100 times more potent than cyanide. If a human ate one, they'd drop dead. Like all of amphibian kind, they breed in water. But at this pool party, anything goes. Boys on boys, boys on girls. Salamander sex is as colourful as their skin. But at least some get it right. Twigs in the pond are decorated with sticky sacks of eggs. A European relative's more reserved. The best party hats worn by the great crested newt. If a male can impress a female with his outfit, then she'll allow him to pass over a package of sperm. He'll drop it off, and she'll pick it up and use it to fertilize her eggs. The female folds a leaf and lays an egg into the fold, its jelly cementing the two halves together. It's a painstaking approach, but it's the best she can do to hide her babies from hungry mouths. Like all amphibians, the babies need a makeover before they'll be ready to breed themselves. It will take 4 months for them to become smaller versions of their parents. Though they're salamanders, these newts aren't very toxic, but even their most deadly of kin can't compete with the South American cousin. You might wonder what indigenous hunters have to do with amphibians. In the dense Amazon rainforest, they're hunting squirrel monkeys. They're using a blowgun with poison-tipped darts. It kills within seconds. And you guessed it, the poison comes from the aptly named poison dart frogs, tiny, colourful rainforest inhabitants. The frogs are only a few centimetres long, but don't underestimate their potency. Some species contain enough toxin to kill half a dozen people. Deadly as they are, they're model parents. The red Amazonica couple will be faithful to each other, though it's Dad who does most of the parenting. The female's contribution is to lay a few unfertilized eggs as food for her infants, but after that, she leaves them to it. Normally, amphibians lay eggs in water, but these must survive in a blob of jelly. The male stands guard until the eggs hatch, and then he offers them a lift. Instinctively, a tadpole wriggles onto his back. And then he begins an epic journey. The rainforest has high humidity, but large bodies of water are hard to find and teeming with predators. But he has a plan. He clambers skywards until he sees a bromeliad. Bromeliads are not parasites, but they grow on other plants to get them closer to sunlight. To live high up, they have the useful habit of collecting rainwater. It's to keep themselves wet, but in the process providing hot tubs for tadpoles. Dad drops each baby in its own plant pot, an aquatic nursery where it can live in safety until it's ready to transform into an adult frog and hop off. It's hardcore parenting, but there's another frog that wins Father of the Year. Huge rivers and wetlands of Africa are subject to seasonal drying out. It leaves some residents high and dry. Thousands of matchbox-sized tadpoles and their beefy dad. He's on guard and under submarine attack. It's another marauding male, and Dad's not happy. These heavyweights, football-sized frogs, will fight to the death over who gets to keep the babies. Our devoted dad wins. He'll fearlessly defend his brood for 3 weeks until their metamorphosis is complete. But a lot can change in that time. The mercury's rising. The young are halfway to becoming chowder. Dad must act fast. Instinct tells him what to do. He puts his powerful hopping legs to work. He's a dam buster. The larger pool should keep them going for a while. Even with a hero in the family, the hoppers face a life of hardship. Few predators turn their nose up at frog legs. For the common frog of Europe, the grass snake's enemy number one. The water-loving reptile terrorizes all the amphibians of its wetland home. But it's important to look before you leap. Frogs certainly make a popular dish. Even bears aren't above a bit of weightlifting to sample the goods. Damp, rocky hideouts equal a salamander buffet. The bears seem to instinctively know which kinds are the least toxic before they chow down. There are dangers everywhere, but this African red toad thinks he's found a safe house. But he's not the first to shelter here. A deadly spitting cobra. It looks like Toad in the hole, but it's not over yet. If all else fails, the toad has another trick up his sleeve. He inflates his body, so much so that even the hungry snake can't get its mouth around him. Amazing amphibians use every trick in the book to survive a dangerous world. But poisons, hopping, and puffing are nothing. Meet the masters of disguise. Leafcutter ants work tirelessly to gather vegetation to take back to their nests, building a food store. And it's not surprising that after putting so much work into their larder, they'll fiercely defend it. Trespassers are not welcome. And yet, there's a frog inside. Any other frog in here would find itself under attack, but not this one. Ants recognize each other, not by sight, but by scent, the chemical signals they all give off. The frog has developed its own unique cologne, Odor Ant. In the cool, damp basement of the ant nest, it can raise its young, protected by the fearsome ants like a member of the family. But there are other creepy crawlies you really don't want to mess with. The tarantula's an intimidating predator that stalks the rainforest for any small animals she can eat. A spider cave protects her babies until they're as scary as their mother. It's not a place for the faint-hearted. A frog's found its way into her lair. But he survives. Again, his pheromones reassure the spider. He's a welcome lodger. Some reports even suggest a spider keeps a frog as a pet, though in fact it's a mutual arrangement. Big, scary spider protects her little frog, and the amphibian pays its rent by eating ants and other predatory insects that might harm her baby spiderlings. It appears that amphibians have found ingenious solutions to almost any obstacle, and as a result, their kingdom knows no bounds. Humid tropical rainforest looks like frog heaven, but not here atop a mountain. But melting glaciers form pools, and potential for one intrepid amphibian. The Siberian salamander can cope with minus 45 degrees centigrade. They've even been known to survive the odd winter, frozen solid in permafrost. But the weirdest of them all lives inside the mountain itself. In limestone karsts under the Alps lurks Europe's only cave-dwelling vertebrate. Legend records it as a baby dragon, living in the caves, slowly growing into a fearsome beast. The strangest of specialists, the olm. It only reaches 30 centimeters long. Like most young amphibians, it has feathery external gills, but they stay with it throughout life. It's blind and finds its food with hearing and smell. Some local people call it the human fish because of its ghostly, pigmentless skin. Living underground in perpetual darkness, it has no need for color. Amazing amphibians have certainly conquered the globe. But the world still throws challenges at them. When winter arrives in northern forests, waterways are brought to a standstill. The ground freezes, and so do the bodies of any animals trapped within. It's good for nature. Germs and bacteria will be killed. Seeds will be protected until they grow in spring. But for many individuals, this is the end of the road. But amphibians have one last magic trick, and it's one of biblical proportions. Spring sunshine slowly unlocks the forest from months in suspended animation. Under the leaf litter, the iced-up body of a frog. Even his eyes are solid balls of ice. But as the ice melts, the dead seem to rise again. First, his heart begins to gently beat, attempting to kickstart his circulation. Blood reaches his brain. It's like the on switch. His liver produced an oily antifreeze, which was pumped around his body. So, although the water in his body froze, his cells did not. They just had to wait for the thaw. A bit of wriggling to warm up, and he's ready to hop. Frogs can shut down for 8 months of the year, but it doesn't damage their zest for life. And to make the most of a fleeting northern spring, there's work to be done. Amphibians are almost irrepressible. They've hopped and croaked through hundreds of millions of years of harsh weather and hungry predators. Now there's a new threat. Tritiomycosis, a virus spread by fungi that kills frogs by stopping their ability to control their body salts and moisture levels. It's already wiped out 200 species. It's an endless struggle onwards. But the world over, scientists are trying to find a way to help. They won't allow the frog family to croak its last. And coupled with the frog's enthusiasm for breeding, there's every chance they can bounce back.